Hello everyone! Hearthstone's Journey to Un'Goro card reveal season is underway, and in this video I want to take a look at the Shaman class legendary card, Kalimos, Primal Lord. Kalimos is clearly first and foremost designed for elemental decks, but I will return back to elemental decks in a little while later, as more elemental cards will be revealed, so it's better to evaluate them. But I think it's a good idea to take a look at Kalimos already at this stage. So what does it do? Kalimos is an 8 mana 7/7, and it has a battle cry that if you played an elemental last turn, then Kalimos will cast an elemental invocation. Okay. So the power of Calamus obviously depends a lot on what are the elemental invocations. There are 4 elemental invocations available. One of them will deal 3 damage to all enemy minions, so it's fairly close to a consecration. Another one will fill your board with 1/1 elementals, so similar to the effect that Onyxia has. Then there's one that restores 12 health to your hero. So similar to Create a Healing Potion, except that you don't get to choose the target, it only targets your hero. And the final one will deal 6 damage to the enemy hero. So it's a fireball, but again you don't get to pick the target, so it only targets the enemy hero. With these powers, Kalimos clearly passes the test for a powerful late game card. Generally when you play a big minion in the late game, something that costs like 8 mana, 9 mana, 10 mana even, you want it to have a strong and immediate effect. And while Kalimos' effects are not super strong by themselves, but the simple fact that you get to choose from the 4, and they're still pretty powerful, makes it an extremely viable card. We all can also remember that Ragnar's the Fire Lord is moving to the Hall of Fame, so it's no longer available for decks, and that also frees up space to bring in class legendaries or other legendaries to that high cost mana slot at 8. So this way Kalimos is a nice fit both to mid-range and to control decks, because with Ragnar's card there's more room in the mid-range decks to play something at the top of the curve, so Kalimos can fit there. And in a control deck, well, the flexibility of Kalimos is simply superb, so control decks will want to play Kalimos. Kalimos is perhaps a little bit restricted and at least balanced by the condition of its battle cry. So you can only activate the effect if you have played an elemental on the previous turn. I expect this to actually create some really nice plays and counterplays when facing these elemental decks, because the elemental shaman is going to have to carefully think, okay, what kind of elemental resources do I have available to me? When do I want to use them? When do I want to have that ability to have my big elemental effects activated, and when can I let them lapse? And also the opponent can see, okay, the shaman did not play an elemental last turn. This turn he will not be able to activate certain powerful effects. This is a window of opportunity for me. So I quite enjoy this if you played elemental last turn mechanic, because it creates this interesting play, counterplay and planning ahead that you need to be doing. What's furthermore interesting about Kalimos is that now with Ragnaros going out, and this one being a fairly powerful class legendary, I think some thought could also be given to whether it would be possible to run Kalimos in a non-elemental deck. A mid-range shaman deck would probably be interested in this. Mid-range shaman could run some elemental cards, old cards that are going to receive elemental tag. Things like Unbound Elemental, things like Fire Elemental, things like Alakir the Wind Lord. And Control Shaman, this would be a great fit for Control Shaman if they can just find the activators. Control Shaman also runs at least Earth Elementals, maybe Alakir. But overall, at the moment, it doesn't look like there's enough natural support to actually run Kalimos in either midrange or control shaman that do not rely on elemental synergies as a whole. So there are a couple of natural elemental cards that are run in both decks. and maybe there will be some more. But it would take a couple, at least a couple of more, some natural elemental cards that you want to run in the deck, regardless of whether they have the elemental tag or not, in order to be able to fit in Kalimos. And then there's some Shaman archetypes that are simply not interested in Kalimos at all, such as the Aggro Shaman or the Jade Shaman. Aggro Shaman considers Kalimos to be too slow, they don't need any 8 mana minion, and then again Jade Shaman has quite a different game plan, and it's already quite full with all the Jades and stuff, so it doesn't really have room for those elemental synergies and then Kalimos. Right now it looks like Kalimos will only find a home in Elemental Shaman. And it will find a home in both a mid-range variant or a potential control variant because of its flexibility, so it suits both of those archetypes. It doesn't suit an aggro archetype very well, but with the current cards, at least so far, it doesn't look like aggro Elemental Shaman will be a thing. It's hard to say yet, but it looks like that will more be on the mid-range and control side. And it will be interesting to see how Elemental Shaman is going to evolve. Because typically when these sorts of tribal decks are introduced, we can think of dragon decks, we can think of Kutoon decks, we can think of Jade decks. The typical initial reaction is to just grab as much of those synergy cards as you can and fit them into your deck. And then once the decks evolve a little bit, these synergy cards start to be getting cut. So you're starting to experiment, okay, just how few of the most powerful synergy cards do I want to run in order to free up space to bring in powerful cards that do not synergize with the tribe. And this kind of development has happened in all of these deck types. Jade Shaman, for example, is undergoing this kind of development right now. There's the option whether you go in full Jades, get them up to 10/10s, or whether you cut a couple of the slower ones maybe, or a couple of the less influential ones. It's going to be really interesting to see how the elemental decks are going to be built. We will take a look at the elemental cards once there are more elemental cards released, but it's already quite possible to say that Kalimos is going to be a staple in Elemental Shaman, because it's just an incredible card with incredible flexibility. It's a high cost minion that has an immediate effect, and that's exactly what you want your high cost minions to have. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel for more.